Hi, my name is Ryan Suniga, and I'm an attorney with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. And I'm here today to talk to you about tips for effective brief writing. The first tip I would give to anybody who wants to become a better writer is that the first paragraph or the first sentence of any written work that you create should really impress on the reader, and especially a court, the who, what, when, where, and why your case is the winner. It's important to take that opportunity to really frame the issue for the court and to set forth the facts and the parties and the issues that are going to be important to your case. The next tip I would give is that anybody who wants to become a great brief writer really needs to become proficient in designing their text. And by that I mean paying attention to the visual effect that your brief can have. Studies have shown that certain types of fonts, namely serif type fonts, which are things like Times and Century, have a better effect and in fact are more comprehensible when you're reading long passages. And in fact, the Solicitor General and the Supreme Court both use Century type fonts. The other thing I would suggest is that you need to be consistent in your outlining in terms of the brief. So if you have, let's say you have an argument section, and under that you have a capital or a Roman numeral 1, and under that you have a subheading labeled capital A. That capital A really should only be indented one time into the actual page. The more you indent those subheadings, the more it's going to detract from the visual appeal of your brief. I would also suggest avoiding large caps for any of your headings because, again, that's going to detract from the actual visual appeal of your brief and make it less comprehensive to the reader. The next thing I want to talk about is the use of case law and other authority. And there are really 2 points that I want to make here. The first is that anytime you use case law, you're about to use case law to demonstrate or explain a legal principle, you really need a transition, something that helps with the flow from what you were just talking about to what you're now going to be talking about. So often I see briefs that have identified a legal principle and then immediately jump into the case without any sort of transition, and it really disrupts the flow of the brief and makes it less comprehensive. So that, I think, is something that's very important. And the second point I want to make is anytime that you use a case, you should really strive to include the minimum amount of facts necessary to tell the court exactly who was involved in that case and then how the court eventually arrived at their holding. So oftentimes I think you see lawyers include all sorts of unnecessary and extra facts in their case descriptions that really don't benefit them and in fact make their brief less comprehensible. And so you should really strive to just include those important necessary facts that are going to help the judge understand what that case was about. The next tip I would give is just a general tip to improve your writing, and that is to get away from actual legal documents. You know, legal opinions and briefs are not the most enjoyable to read at times, and that's because they're often very technical and don't contain the sort of creative or flowing prose that we might see in other works. So I'd really suggest that if you want to become a better writer, to carve out 20 minutes of your day to try and find a magazine or a newspaper article or a book that is a better example of flowing prose and will help you to develop a better sense of style and a better voice. Next thing I want to talk about are some simple technological tools that you can use to help make yourself a better writer. One of my personal favorites is actually in the Microsoft Word function. There's a function that allows you to have the brief read back to you. And I think that that's such a powerful tool that is not used enough. And so often you get attached to the words that you've written on the page, and when you read them in your head, they sound good, but when they're actually being read aloud, it sounds quite different. And so being able to have that third-party objective view is really important. And I think that that's just a simple tool that people can use to help make themselves better writers. And lastly, I'll say that anybody who really wants to improve their writing should really invest in products that are going to help you become a better writer. I think the gold standard in terms of legal writing is Brian Gardner's The Winning Brief. And if you're looking to become a better writer, you're doing yourself a disservice by not going out and purchasing that book. Other products I'll mention are things like Point Made by Ross Guberman, which is another excellent example and I think shares a lot of similar tips to The Winning Brief, but might actually be a little bit more digestible. And then other simple things, going out and getting a book that'll help you improve your grammar. Again, Brian Gardner writes a red book that is for that purpose. There are also, thesauruses out there that will help you improve your vocabulary. Investing in a good thesaurus is always a good option and a good way to make your brief come alive.